Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. All right. Instagram is having some trouble starting the video. Let's change it up. Who's this? No, I don't want to do that. We'll try it again. Live Instagram. Technology. Checking connection. Why does everything work when you test new things out? But it doesn't work. Okay. There we go. It's live. Okay. So let me check one more thing. Make sure we're good to go. Yeah, okay. No, it's not made for kids. Save. Okay, cool. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name's Justin Harris. This is my Monday Musings, where I get on my soapbox and talk about things that are popping up for my clients and myself, things I see in the industry, and yeah, anything I feel like talking about. So it's my opportunity to jam on about things that I think are important, or I'm working through, or workshopping, or having the conversation multiple times. So for those who are new here or don't know me, uh, I've been coaching for I think 16, almost 20 years, something like that, since 2007. So yeah, 18 years. I was a professional triathlete for a little bit. But the biggest thing is, my whole entire career was based on, being a coach. So I have education degree, bachelor's of science in psychology and special education, taught high school for a year. But I really wanted to coach. So I got my master's in human performance and did some work with bobsled, skeleton, and luge. The Winter Olympics are coming. But I've worked with speed and power athletes to endurance athletes. My specialty is endurance. Been successful across the board, worked with beginners, getting people onboarded, and even have coached Olympic medalists and Olympians, which is super cool. So a wide range of topics and ideas that we're going to talk about. And the biggest thing I try to do in my practice is always to distill all the information into kind of like first principles, things that expand and grow. And so those on Instagram or YouTube, you can comment. I can see it, and we'll have a conversation. You can ask questions. We can have a dynamic conversation. Whatever you feel like, however you feel like engaging, don't hesitate to ask questions and put them in there. So, what's up, everyone? Alan, what's up, everyone? So, okay. So, what I want to talk about today, I'm doing a presentation in a couple of weeks for a Fortune 500 company, talking to a working group of employees about that are over 45 years old, and talking about basically using my experience to like help connect with them. And so, it's like a Mag 7 company. So I'm super excited about this opportunity. I've done some public speaking before, and I've been really, trying to distill information. And essentially, I'm going to talk about like sustained success and like creating a framework for aging as an athlete. All right. An aging athlete, and, I'm trying to always make metaphors and connections with people so that they understand, right? And so, if I'm talking to an investment broker or someone in finance, I'm going to use analogies about leverage and budgets and, risk allocation and different stuff like that in training. If I'm talking to someone who's like a teacher artist, I'm going to talk about teaching and zone and proximal development, facilitation, different things. I'm just trying to make connections with people, right? And so one of the things I've been trying to find workarounds to explaining to people um, is some of these concepts that I'm trying to put in the presentation to make it really land. I don't like being talked at like I'm dumb or I don't know what's going on. I really like people who present information and give me the opportunity to like take away principles, not more protocols or more rules or something like that, but principles that I can kind of see how they fit in my life. So I find that with a lot of my clients, I'm having this discussion about slowing down, or their paces, or putting a little bit less effort in there. in order to be consistent. And it gets a lot of people like confused. The paces, especially for running, feel too easy. I could go harder. Yeah, you can go harder, right? So it's a lack of understanding of like why we're doing what we're doing. And that's my job as a coach, as an educator. Not all coaches take an educational approach. Some are like, dictators, authoritarian, and some of my clients will probably say that I can be at times, but it depends on what's necessary. And so uh, I found that I've been able to make more of a connection about like to people money, right? We understand money principles and different things, and we all understand like the concepts of a budget, right? Um, the the next conversation I get is like, okay, well, like how am I supposed to get faster if I'm running so slow all the time? And the irony is they're not running slow all the time, right? It's funny how we remember like 3 sessions a week out of 6, and we really attach to there. And that tells me that people are more concerned about pace, and that can come from, very performance and type A minded. It also generally comes from this concept or idea of this little thing called insecurity, right? I'm not good enough. I want to be better, right? And so we dig into all these things, right? So I've been trying to explain, training as like a budget, all right? And so a budget in the sense of like we have a certain allocation to spend each week, right? And so the idea is this like, within a week, and we can even like go macro, which I'm going to get to in this talk, right? Just follow along with me. Again, this is my place to like workshop and walk through ideas, and it's not perfection. It's messy, it's live. And as we tend to do when it's Monday evenings, a little glass of wine. One of my clients bought me a nice little Zinfandel, and I'm just letting it decanter a little bit, letting it open it up because I just opened up the bottle. So what's up, Karina? What's up, Claudia? If you're on YouTube watching, you can comment, I say hello, and go from there. So we'll go from there. So anyway, so this idea of like a budget. So I'm going to talk within a week, right? And so this idea that maybe let's say we have $1,200 to spend each week, all right? And for people who want like half marathon or marathon, they're like, I want a lot more exposure from like a comfort level to like run at this pace, right? And this works for cycling as well because we see the power meter or the computer there, and it's like giving us all this information all the time. So we see it, and we're constantly like, how am I supposed to do this, for 26.2 miles or 13.1 or 100K or 100 miles, whatever, and average this when I'm having a tough time now? It's not really how it works. So essentially, if that idea worked, then we would allocate the same budget every single day. So, let's say we have a day off, and we have 6 days and it's 1200, $1,200, and we have $200 to spend every day. What's up, Pierce? And so if we have $200 to spend every day and we go run marathon pace, then we're going to run there the entire time. The issue is that, for any organism, something new becomes a stimulus. And then over time, we adapt to it. And then eventually that thing no longer becomes a stimulus, And so this is why things are hard in the beginning, and then they become easier and easier as we learn and grow and work our way into it and gain fitness or gain understanding how to execute, right? And so if that worked, I think I'd be a multimillionaire, and I would just write that plan. I put it on an app, we track it, and we'd be done, right? Unfortunately, that's not how training works. And, contemporary training principles, since, we could say initially started in like the 50s with like Arthur Lydiard and Percy Cerruti, in Oceania, right? So like Australia and New Zealand and, England and all this stuff, right? So if that worked, it would work, and the elites would be doing it, and everyone down would be doing it, but it's not what they do. All right. And I don't love reverse engineering from elite athletes because elite performance in any domain is generally not healthy. Okay. We're trading something to get it done in a short amount of time. All right. And potentially make a career from it. So we have this idea of like, okay, we don't want to spend $200 every day. We don't want to even budget. All right. And so that means that we have the opportunity to make some days more challenging than others. So we can say, and this is another thing that's been proven by time, is that you basically can do 3 quality sessions a week, and then past that, it needs to be lesser quality. All right. And so when we look at training, we're looking at, kind of a coach looks at like density wise. All right. In Training Peaks, it's TSS score, training stress score. I just say density. Okay. Density is equal to frequency of training, frequency we do something, the volume or duration we do something, and then the intensity, and all those multiplied to give you density. All right. So we can start manipulating those dials. I can increase the density by adding a 4th session out of 3, or a 5th session when we've been doing 4, or a 6th session, or no days off, right? So I'm turning the frequency up. Well, in lockstep, I'm turning volume up. Okay. And so the density is going up from there. And we need to be careful because this is not Spinal Tap where we're going to turning everything up to 11. We need to be mindful that we can't turn all things up. So if we're turning volume up, we have to turn intensity down. If we turn intensity up, we have to turn volume down. Otherwise, it makes it more dense. So some days I'm trying to reduce density by reducing volume, and my athletes choose to add more intensity because, well, I did 5 miles last week, and now you're asking me to do 3, and so I can go faster. And it's like, well, we just made it more dense. I mean, it's a difference between a volume of 5 and an intensity of 3, which is 15, if we multiply them because they're multipliers. And then if we flip the other thing around, right, I reduce the volume to 3, and then you increase the volume from 3 to 5, then we're still at net 15. Okay. So we're talking about a budget. So coaches are thinking about budgets. All right. It's not necessarily to calories, but it's to energy exerted, effort exerted. So our quality days, we can say VO2 max day, a threshold day, and a long day, right? And those are quality sessions. So just roughly speaking, we'll say that those are, we'll say those are $300 days. Okay. And so I didn't do the math on this. So 300, 600, we have 3 other days. I think that makes 200 for everything else. Yeah. 2 times 6, and so that's 900. Man, it's late. I've been up since 5. I can't do my math. 900. Oh, they're $100 days. Jesus, I knew that to begin with. Okay, so our VO2 max day is $300, and our threshold day is $300, and our long run is $300. The VO2 max day, we're getting those $300 on intensity. Don't laugh at me, Karina, because of my math skills right now. And I'm a math guy. Our progression run is $300, and that's kind of our threshold day, and that's done maybe a little bit more volume, but a little less intensity than VO2 max. And then our long run, I like them on Saturdays, or a long ride, is $300 day, but it's very low intensity and high volume. All right. And so what ends up happening is sometimes people on the long runs want to go a little faster so they get to marathon pace, or they get to the power output, average power output, and they're trying to hold it on the bike or whatever it is. What ends up happening is, like on a $300 day, you can overspend a little bit, and you might overspend by $50. So now you made it $350 a day. Okay. So $350 a day for that day means, and it's at the end of the week, so we don't have much time to fix it. All right. And so we get to the end of the week, and we're $50 over for week 1. Is that insurmountable? Is that a high percentage of $1,200? No, it's not. All right. But what often happens is people look at the plan, and then it starts increasing the following week. So now I got to up it again. And now we're already going into the week $50 over budget. Okay. Which means we're coming into it with a little bit more fatigued, all right, at the expense. Now we go VO2 max again. We're going to hit at the same level. So we've got all 300. So we didn't pay back $50 on that day. No one's doing that, right? No one is backing off VO2 max. The HIIT classes, or whatever you're calling them, or however you're structuring them, we ain't backing off that. That's the fun stuff. That makes me feel like I did something today, right? Now, all right. So we're not going to get it there. Well, guess what happens on a Tuesday or a Wednesday? We have an aerobic activity, session, ride, run, swim, whatever it is. Well, I don't want to run that slow. All right. I run X pace. Well, we're carrying a $50 excess here. We're in the red since last week. So where are we getting it? Well, we're not getting that day because we don't want to slow down. We don't want to listen to our heart rate. All right. It's a really warm day out. We don't want to, that doesn't affect us. I still run 10-minute pace, or I run 8:30, or I ran 7-minute, whatever your pace is. That's what I run. Or I have to hold this power output. Yeah. Okay. Great. So when do we pay the money back? And guess what happens? We carry that $50 over, but most people go harder the next week because it's more and they're feeling good. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So they're going over budget $5 or $30. They're generally not egregious in their errors and overspending for that day. And it just keeps accumulating. All right. So that after like 4 weeks, like every week we're $50 over budget. After 4 weeks, we are $200 over budget. $200 based on our $300 for quality session and $100 for aerobic session. We've either accounted for 2 aerobic days, recovery, restoration, aerobic, whatever you want to say. And we don't make it this like linear. All right. But I'm just using this for an analogy. It's almost a full quality session. All right. And the older we get, the more this is like spending, instead of spending from your bank account where you already have the money and allocated, like when you're young and you can recover super fast and you sleep and you have less things to be responsible for. What's up, Adam? Is that you have this as older, it's like we're spending on a credit card. All right. There's high interest here and we're not paying it off. So we get to the end of 4 weeks and we didn't pay it off. Well, now this is carrying over and now we're having this fatigue. But most people feel like when they're training, they should be exhausted all the time. And guess what happens to your velocities on the key session, the speedy stuff? Well, that gets a little bit slower. And then you build more fatigue and it gets a little bit slower. And so then we're trying to achieve these and it requires more effort. Okay. So at the end of the day, looking at it as a budget, when are you going to pay back the debt? And I tell my clients to just stay in the green zone. All right. It's zone 2. All right. It's green, it's aerobic, it's chatty. There's all these reasons for it. We're not doing it every single day unless we're really trying to reboot the system. Someone has high heart rate, they're getting over COVID, whatever it is. It's like in zone 2 aerobic training. It's like chicken noodle soup for the endurance soul. Okay. So with that said, what we're trying to do there is get people to understand that you're going to have to pay the debt somewhere. And if you're not going to pay up and pony up front, the bank's going to come collecting. Who's the bank? It's your body. It's your body. Comes collecting. Injury, tendonitis, that's a first sign. We can have bone reactions, stress fractures. We can have illness, or we just can have general malaise where like I wouldn't call it quite overtraining. It's really hard to truly overtrain, like the technical like book definition. Okay. But then you get injured. And that's just simply you did not pay your debt down. Okay. So if you think about training as money, spend the money that you allocated for that day. And when coaches write training plans, they're writing it thinking about how we're going to spend the money and where we're going to pay debts. So off days are days where we pay debt down. Well, I want to do Pilates and yoga. All right, I'm going to do an hour yoga class and I'm going to do a 30-minute Pilates class because it's not pounding the ground. Well, guess what? I mean, I've never been more exhausted sometimes when I leave Pilates class, or yoga class can be relaxing for some people. It could be a challenge for others. So it's like not really an off day. All right. It's a restoration day. All right. We're spending some budget that day. All right. So when I'm talking to new clients and when I'm thinking about this presentation for a Fortune 500 company that's in the Mag 7 about like sustainable success, I'm coming through these things and like some of the conclusions I came up with, and I don't know if I'll include them or not, but like the problem isn't effort for most people in training. It's a poor strategy when things get chaotic and a too short of a timeline. Everyone thinks they're going to get fit in 2 weeks. It takes like 6 months. Not really, but you'll be better in 6 months than you were in 6 weeks. You'll be better in 6 weeks than you were in 1 week. Unless you just kept training harder and harder, then you're going to get worse in 6 weeks. All right. So we need these like ebbs and flows. All right. You got to pay the debt down. You got to pay the credit card in full at the end of every month. All right. Or at least at the end of the build. Matt talked about it today. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. But like A races, B races, C race. A race is like full on build, everything's for that, and then recovery. And the end of the recovery, we pay off the total credit card. We're incurring debt. We keep spending, but we know we'll be able to pay it off. All right, training wise. But its problem isn't effort, it's strategy and time horizon. And like when we get into like consistency and different stuff, it's generally not consistency. Issues with consistency is not a lack of discipline, it's strategy. And it constantly comes down to strategy. This is what coaches do. This is what I do in my business, is help my clients find strategies for them. I don't have a one-trick pony. We have certain principles and we make it work for people, right? But I'm not here to optimize. All right. There's enough people out there. Peter Attia, Stacy Sims, Andrew Huberman. Like there's plethora of people out there, or Tim Ferriss, for optimization. And the thing is some of this stuff works if you do it, but you just got to have a good strategy. And a lot of these people have good strategy because they have confidence in the materials and they have time and money to do it. Okay. This applies for our bodies, but it also applies for like most of our careers, like most domains, right? It's like, you need to put effort in, but then it's like strategy and time horizon. All right. Like if I have, like, I think about my business, and how I'm running it. And I've been knowing what I'm going to, like each year I try to implement something more strategic. And, I'm thinking like, okay, what can I do next year? And how does that set up what I'm doing now? And blah, 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 all that stuff. Right. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is like just like general fitness and training. And so this other idea is that like when we say, like when people tell you to invest your money, actually, let me take a sip of wine. Don't hesitate to ask questions. I'll go through them if you hang with me. I probably have like another 5 minutes or just anytime I say a time, double it. Okay. But if you're on YouTube, you could have hit the link. It's a little bit better experience, I think. I don't know, but give me a follow. And if you're coming on here new here, give me a follow. And we'll have fun on our Monday Musings. Hopefully you guys grab a glass of wine or water or dried January, whatever you're doing, and participate in the way that you feel comfortable. All right. So the other thing I was thinking about is like, if we're looking for like a holistic strategy or whatever, like basic principles, like everyone needs to train, like something like 80, what was it? Like I wrote it down somewhere, like 85% of people are going to, like over 65 are going to have some issue with the big three. So that's cardiovascular disease, diabetes, or cancer. And one of the other risks that people deal with is like seniors. 1 in 4 seniors fall, or at fall, they fall, and 50% of those. So if we say 2 out of 8, then that means like one of them does not return, because you can't have half a person, right? But half of them, 1 of 4 people fall. Half of those people that fall do not return to their normal lives, like mobility and stuff. And I saw it with my grandfather, who's super fit and lasted. Had a great run at the end, but because of a brain tumor and stuff, deteriorated, and it's tough to watch for someone who was like so healthy and watch. So these things, it's inevitable. Father Time, always bites back. But this idea of like, we're getting into these like totality, like for a while it was like you have to do strength. And then it was like you have to do endurance. And then somewhere it's going to be like we're going to be in a big mobility yoga phase, like in another like 3 years, I can guarantee it. And triathlon will become bigger again. But we've almost come to this place where we have to do all things at all times. Okay. And I just think it's bullshit, right? Like, like we don't have to do all things all the time. I think like Peter T is like, you got to do a VO2 max session like once a week, and you have to do several zone 2 sessions, and you have to do strength, and you have to do dead hangs. And then if we listen to Tim Ferriss, we have to journal. Like I listen to these guys all the time. I think they're great things, but we don't have a strategy on how to like implement these in our lives. And then we overbook ourselves, and then it's a shitty strategy. Right. So we talk about diversifying our investments. Some people don't, that's their choice. Right. But if we think about diversifying our portfolio, our fitness portfolio, all right. So like some people are like heavily invested, like 100% in stocks. So there's some people 100% in crypto, right? Super risky, right? So it's like risk to high risk, low risk, right? So like S&P 500, QQQ, like NASDAQ, like more tech orientated. You can get into like leveraging. You can get into like tips like treasury inflation protected security, something like that. You can go all the way to commodities. You can do real estate. You can do precious metal. Like there's all these ways to diversify your portfolio. And I'm sure there's even more things that I haven't even thought about, right? But when we talk about like the big things like, endurance, mobility, flexibility, strength, um, what a lot of people like social, like part of being healthy is like having friends and doing things with other people. And so to me, it's like people like go into these binary all or nothing phases, or like strategies, and they convince people to like stop doing what they're doing. But what I'm trying to do with this, like have this conversation with people is like, you don't want to be 100% invested in something because that entails like, usually that's like elite performers will have a higher percentage of their fitness or training portfolio into the thing that they're doing because they're making money for it. So LeBron James is not riding his bike all day long, even though he's sponsored as a partnership with Canyon Bikes. Um, he's playing basketball. All right. So like an investment trader is making trades. Like that's what they're doing. All right. Elite performance is not healthy. Some of the most unhealthy feet you'll ever see in your life. You think runners are bad, basketball players are awful. I signed an NDA, went into the Nike high performance lab, and let me just tell you, you know, um, yeah, it's really interesting. Okay. So maybe we can think about just like our investment portfolios. You might feel more comfortable being 50%, 100% in the S&P 500 and done. And I may feel more comfortable in the S&P 500, 50% and 25% in bonds and 25% in domestic commodities. All right. Maybe I'm losing people here, but just roll with me. Maybe we can look at this more as strength, and all these things. So like, I like to do more endurance, but when I was racing professionally and trying to make a career out of it, I was so far into endurance because that's what it demanded. If I played a pickup game of soccer, I was sore for like 4 days because I wasn't doing lateral cutting work. My groin was sore, my hips, everything. I was like beat up because I wasn't doing it. And so if you want to be healthy, you would want a like more equal portfolio, like 33% endurance and 33% strength and 33% mobility and whatever, right? But if you're going to do a marathon, this is what like people come to me is like, I do all these Pilates and fitness classes and yoga things. And I like to do all these things. And I walk a ton and I do all this. And it's like, it's healthy. It's like, great. That's exercising, right? It's not like you're trying to crescendo this here because it's more random. All right. And a 33% portfolio in three things is some things are going to win and some things are going to lose, or it's just going to grow slowly. Right. But when we get into like marathon training or like a long like bike race, I have someone training for a 113-mile Belgian waffle ride. This idea comes up like, okay, we want to do strength, but when we're 16 weeks out from the event, we have to consider doing the thing that's going to be the most demanding part. And we want to allocate our portfolio. So we'll pull a little away from mobility and we'll pull a little away from strength so that we have time in full schedule people. If you have all day, you got to do everything. They do, but we don't. Okay. We don't have all day. And we have a lot of responsibilities, right? So full schedule athletes, it's like, okay, we need to shift the portfolio allocation around. All right. Now, when we get away from a race, Matt was talking about A races and B races and C races. And again, I'll talk about it tomorrow on a video. But like when we're in between races, we can redistribute the allocation to get more balance. So like, hey, we're 8 weeks between two events and we're good. We can shift back to more strength after a marathon, once we recovered and gets back to mobility. And so therefore the endurance training comes down. Anyway, I just present this idea of like looking at training more as like, and exercise more as like in relation to the metaphor of your money. And if you're good with your money and you looked at training in the same way, you wouldn't be far off. So anyway, I'll hang out for a couple minutes, or probably a bunch of minutes, and go down and like look through the questions. So what's up, everyone? All right. So probably people didn't stick around because there's not too many people here. So, all right. Hello, everyone. So ask your questions now. All right. Love this. Awesome. Appreciate that. What's your thoughts on using a Whoop or Garmin watch to track strain? Okay. I had this question today with one of my clients. The devices right now, I don't believe are valid and reliable enough to make training decisions day to day. All right. They require high validity and accuracy. And some of these metrics are like leading indicators, but most of them are lagging indicators. So like HRV is can be a lagging indicator. It can take a couple days. So if all of a sudden your HRV like drops, which is not good. So like we want heart rate variability is a variability between a certain portion of the heartbeat. And when we have more variability, we are in a less stressed state. When we have uh, less variability, that's like boom, 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 like we're stressed. Okay. And so it's looking at that and a multitude of other things that are proprietary. And I don't know all the details. Garmin does, similar things, but when it's on the wrist is shown to not be so accurate. They're getting better with machine learning and stuff to like figure out these artifacts. But I took my HRV. So if you swallow, like right there, if you swallow saliva, your HRV rises in measurement. And these devices are taking measurements over like 20 minutes. So like you're moving in different stuff. So it's not that accurate. I took my HRV using the camera, like a pulse ox that they use in hospital and stuff. And you just put it on the back of the camera, shines a light. And it's like the reliability and validity is very good. And I sat down. So I got up, went to the bathroom, and then I sat down and I relaxed. I did it the same way every day for a year. And I put my finger on it and I looked at it and it gave me real time rest, like heart rate and variability. And I could see things changing from beat to beat when I swallowed. Like as soon as I swallowed, like the next 3 beats, and then it would go up like from 65 to 75 and back down. And so that's an artifact, right? So, um, so you have to keep that in mind. Also, too, is some metrics are good for some people. So HRV is like can be some people HRV measurement can be more sensitive if they're not doing well than resting heart rate. All right. And resting heart rate is better to take laying down, and HRV is better to take more accurate standing up or sitting up. So it becomes like this whole place. I personally would not, well, I hate when people say, I got this thing and it's interesting data. Like you want to spend money and have an idea of how to utilize the device. So this is getting to a long answer. I'll shorten it up. Trends tend to be accurate, but I find it's not enough to make a decision. And I'll leave it at that. Okay. All right. Claudia's mom errands regarding extra expenditures. Yeah, there's some things that we just have to do, and we have to account that in and build it in. All right. Hybrid athlete, but when there's a focal point, there's a shift that needs to happen. Yeah. So when we get a race on the calendar, particularly an A race, we start allocating our budget and going from there. Right. So, what's up, runner cat lover? My wifey's on. What's up, race pace MD? Hello, everyone. Okay. So, anyway, thinking about training, like budgets and portfolio allocations. Sounds crazy, but it's starting to connect in my head. But I'm excited about doing this presentation for this company. I don't know if I can talk about it. I probably can. It's probably not secret, but got a couple weeks to prepare for it, and I'm just like working out some ideas. So, any last questions? I know it's late. Actually, half my clients, I'd rather you go to bed than ask a question. I have a morning run tomorrow. Let's see if on YouTube if there's any questions. Nope, no questions. All right, cool. All right, everyone. If you don't have any, I'll hang for one more minute. But these Monday musings are really about having the opportunity for me to workshop some ideas and different stuff, to talk about things that are going on, and I'm having conversations about in coaching, common misconceptions that people have, things I want to workshop out loud in a public space and see what people's responses are, or, challenges or criticism. That's okay. Oh, yeah. I feel like it's just opening up. It's been about a half hour. Zinfandel. I like my reds. I wish they didn't give me a bit of a headache. I've tried like organic wines. Client for the holidays sent me them a couple years ago. That definitely had less preservatives into it, and so they were a little bit better on my headache wise. I just need to be better about drinking water throughout the day. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for joining me on Monday Musings, and we'll be back next week. I'm trying to always do I'm trying to roughly do some different times to capture different people, but this evening slot seems to be good. Maybe 8:45 is a little bit late, but you guys are rocking. So anyway, appreciate y'all on YouTube. Appreciate y'all on Instagram. We will see you next week. I do save these files on Instagram and YouTube. So subscribe to my YouTube if you're seeing it from there. Follow me here. Engage with me. Don't hesitate. And yeah, what's up, Jackie? Yeah. So don't hesitate to comment on the video. It's posted on my thing if you're watching this now. And I try to respond the best I can. So, Jackie, you would have liked this conversation. I was talking about training being about like similar to spending a budget and how we go over budget. And we've talked about this a little bit. And also looking at training like endurance training, strength training, mobility, yoga, stretching, stuff like that. And uh, like considering fitness or training similar to like our investment portfolios, and to like you can have a balanced portfolio, but there's sometimes where like sometimes things are going really well and you let that run and you don't capture the gains. There's different strategies, right? But like when we're training for a marathon, um yeah, you were not that bad over budget. We talked about it, but this idea that when we're training for a marathon, we have to shift allocation from, if we have a limited timeline, a limited budget, and we get, basically we need to focus more on endurance for the time allocated, the budget allocated, the portfolio balance, right? More endurance, a little bit less strength as we go along, and time for mobility and stuff. And I know we should be doing it all, but we just can't. I have not seen that to be the case. Um, and we can strive for it, but I like to coach in reality and not la la land. And so, but between big races and at the beginning of the year when we're starting to get going again, it's a great time to like rebalance a portfolio to be a little bit more balanced or skewed into what we're not going to get, or areas that we need to grow and develop in. So anyway, I'm heading to bed after enjoying. I'm going to finish my Zinfandel and finish off a little bit of work. But thanks for everyone for joining and jumping on. We'll talk to you next week. Don't hesitate to ask questions. And, you know, yeah, I'm excited to do this presentation with a Mag 7 company about sustainable success, things I've learned from coaching beginners to Olympians, speed and power athletes to endurance athletes, and to help provide a framework for an aging athlete, or as an aging athlete, and help people look at themselves as more of an athlete and have a little bit more intention in what they're doing, and not just a bunch of rules and protocols and all this stuff, which works for some people, doesn't work for everyone. So anyway, catch you next week. I'll probably workshop some more ideas. All right.